This video is sponsored by War Thunder. And you thought I was mad. To be honest, I'm gonna have a bit of a blast in this video. Because I get to talk about something that is not League's universe, it is still something related to the core audience, and it is something I've been pouring about 5 years of my life into. And that is Unreal Engine. Now, what do those 5 years look like? Well, maybe there should be a bit more polishing before I commit to announcing anything. But yes, just like the rest of the industry, Riot Games has been on a slow move to build all of their projects in Unreal Engine. To give you some examples, 2XKO is running in Unreal Engine. Project F, which is seemingly still somewhere in the background, is rumored to be running on Unreal Engine 2. And of course, Valorant is running on Unreal as well. And Riot is not the only one making this swap, by far. After many years, BioWare gave up on their Frostbite engine, and now the next Mass Effect will be in Unreal. CD Projekt Red decided to give up on their own engine after it worked for Witcher and not so much for Cyberpunk. And in general, everyone is swaying away from their own engines, and they are using these pre-built monstrous machines. So, why is that? League, as well as something like WoW, are great examples of games that met success with their own engines. Well, that is the case because these games specifically are old. At the beginning, pretty much every game had to build its own engine from scratch. But the thing is, those engines were a lot simpler than what we have now. We're talking about very basic rendering of objects, usually just sprites moving around, as well as incredibly simple and faked shading. And because these early engines were so simple, it meant that when a developer went from one company to another working on totally different games, it wasn't too hard to pick up the new engines because there were a lot of similarities. But over the years, as the engines became more and more complex, with different coding languages surfacing as people tried to optimize execution times. Well, now if you transfer from one game onto another, it could take weeks before you could properly start working on a new game. And this lasted all the way through the 90s to the early 2000s, where all the companies who already had their own engines simply ran with it. But the rest already started swapping to pre-made engines. And there are two massive reasons why. First of all, as I mentioned, there is a good chance that after you recruit a new game dev, they would have a good knowledge with a pre-built engine, and that's because if you study game dev, you have to start learning somewhere. And especially these days, people start learning with Unity, GameMaker, Godot, or Unreal Engine. So simply getting new workforce is a lot easier if you are using Unreal Engine. But also, using a pre-built engine means you don't have to maintain your own engine. Very recently, after 343 formed a new studio to work on a new Halo title, they mentioned that they are moving to Unreal Engine because in the past the company was essentially running two projects at the same time. One half was maintaining the engine and the other half was making new games, which, as you can guess, is not exactly efficient. And surprisingly, this is why projects such as Space Marine 2 are such mind-blowing games. Not only is the game an absolute masterpiece, but it was also built in the Swarm engine, which was only ever used for like 4 games. But of course, the reason why it was used here, given its name, is because it specializes in rendering entire swarms of enemies on your screen at the same time. And that is where, despite the spaghetti, games such as League can struggle with development because everyone has to learn a new engine. But because it is Riot's engine, they can make it as optimized as possible and they can make it run on any potato imaginable. Although, while that is awesome, the struggles may not be worth the trade. Which is why Riot's future games, including Valorant, decided to run in Unreal Engine. And during Unreal Fest 2024, Valorant made a big announcement. It is one that is teasing a really big thing. I mean, we are talking about something that will affect Valorant's entire universe. And somehow, it is all tied to this engine. And speaking of engines, the engines of war are upon us. At least that is the case in War Thunder. This video is sponsored by War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat on the market, which is available for free on PC and consoles. With over 2,500 different tanks, planes, ships and helicopters spanning 10 major nations, from the good old veterans of the 1920s to the most modern of tanks, you too can immerse yourselves in these incredibly detailed vehicles, surrounded by realistic ambience with authentic sounds coming from these very real machines. This is all wrapped in the incredible X-ray damage system, which allows you to see exactly what you hit, and more than that, what specific parts you damaged. Meaning that we are not dealing with simple box collisions for these vehicles. With a worldwide community of over 70 million players, there won't be any shortages in epic-scaled battles, and to make sure you stand apart from the rest of the pilots, you can dive into the deep customization system with countless different camouflages and historical markings. And best of all, I am impressed that this game is actually quite well optimized. So join War Thunder for free today on PC, PlayStation and Xbox, and by signing up using my link in the description, you'll get a massive bonus pack for new and returning players who haven't played for the last 6 months. This one has a bunch of premium vehicles and decorators, including the Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account, all of which is available for a limited time. So once again, many thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video, and now, back to other kinds of engines. So, during Unreal Fest 2024, we got Anna Donlan, the head of Valorant, giving us a short speech about Valorant's history and future with Unreal Engine. She began by mentioning that while every other game utilizing Unreal Engine is a very graphics-forward game, Valorant is not exactly that. It is heavily stylized, in many ways it can be considered simplistic, and still, Riot wouldn't be able to make this game without Unreal. And in this speech, Anna confirmed that it is for the exact same reason why everyone else swapped to Unreal. The devs want to focus on the technical side of the game, not the engine. Especially since it is a competitive game, they want to focus on gameplay feel and anti-cheat and latency. And with Unreal Engine, they got the foundation to focus on what the players want to see. Not only that, she also mentioned the recent console side of the game, and why they were able to make it happen. From the beginning, they all knew that Valorant would be a PC-first game. After all, that's where FPS games always shined the most, with a few exceptions. And so of course, it launched as a PC exclusive. However, Valorant just kinda became a massive hit, and the community around it suddenly became global. Which means that now they demanded a console port too. And Anna even confirmed that the demand was way bigger than they expected. So they spent the first couple of years focusing on making the PC version awesome first, and then they focused on the people who really wanted to see a console port. Which is where the team had to tackle a question. Is it even possible? Apparently, the plan was always clear. They will give it a shot, but if at any point they have to make changes to the gameplay to make it work, they wouldn't do it. With that said, the game also had to feel like it was built for console. And the thing is, Unreal Engine already has a built-in console support. In some cases, it is as easy as just packaging the game as a console app, and everything you made for PC would get converted. This is a really powerful tool Unreal has, though the chances are you will have to tweak around with some plugins to make it properly work. And here Anna mentioned how important this was because Riot has never launched anything on console before. And after they launched it, Valorant suddenly got millions of new dedicated players. But then she also mentioned that they didn't want to make people feel like they are at a disadvantage if they are playing on a slower computer. Which is kinda interesting because Unreal Engine is known for being upfront heavy. In other words, simply launching Unreal Engine will put a dent in the performance, but after the game is running, you can do a lot before you can make the performance go even lower. Or at least, that's the case if you know what you're doing. So now I'm really curious to see, how did they make it run so well on lower spec machines too? Anyway, then she joked about the fact that they didn't really talk about Lumen or Nanite, which are kinda staple features of Unreal Engine these days. with the catch being that both of these are for higher-end machines. So it makes sense why Valorant isn't really utilizing those. And in fact, we got it confirmed that until now, Valorant was running on Unreal Engine 4.27. This was the latest version of Unreal Engine 4. So Riot is simply squeezing all they can from the previous generation. And this is where the big thing comes in. We got it announced that Valorant is moving to Unreal Engine 5. Now, the team knows that this is not an easy thing to do, especially if your game is live service. But as she mentioned, it is necessary for what they are planning in the future. Not because of performance or updated visuals. She even mentioned that at least for the first few years, Valorant will not graphically change. But then she adds that there are a lot of devs working on Valorant who are really excited about what they will be able to do with Unreal Engine 5. And then she says this.
There are many developers back at Riot who are incredibly grateful for what Unreal has allowed us to do for players. And there are many developers back at Riot who are very excited about what UE5 can do for us in the future. Maybe those devs are working on something I can't talk about. Maybe those devs are thinking about ways to expand the Val universe into new playable experiences. Maybe we feel very fortunate to have everything UE5 can offer at our disposal, and maybe we're stoked that because we chose Unreal for Val, we can move our devs around and our tech around and our everything around really, really easily to explore those totally hypothetical new playable experiences. So maybe you'll see me or someone from my team up here in the future with a very different sort of presentation.
And that right there is your confirmation that the Valorant universe is getting new playable experiences. So if we make a full circle back, yes, it is possible that she is talking about the potentially rumored Valorant MMO. But to me, this also brought up a new question. Why would Unreal Engine 5 be so important? I mean, yeah, in the past, Unreal Engine 4 was never amazing for multiplayer experiences. Their replication and client management had a lot of hiccups. Although there were some multiplayer games who were running on this successfully. So instead, Riot is likely looking towards the other new features that Unreal Engine 5 has. For example, as I mentioned, Unreal Engine 5 is heavily leaning towards Lumen as a new source of light, and Nanite, which can convert any complex models into just a few polygons. But neither of these would fit Valorant's use. Again, they are not going into Unreal Engine 5 for the graphics. Instead, they might be interested in the other features such as the biome generator. A massive feature that allows you to make open worlds quickly. Or even just basic level design gets way faster with procedural content generation. Nope, don't worry, this has nothing to do with AI generation. All it does is take a bunch of assets and puts them together to create realistic scenes. So in a way, it is a really good way to quickly populate an area. Then there is also the new motion matching. This is a new way to animate characters which spits out a lot more natural movement. The thing is, you can achieve very similar results with basic locomotion, and in fact it should run a bit better, so maybe Riot is not interested in that. So instead, they might be interested in the new animation system. If you are running Unreal Engine 5, you don't have to open Blender to make custom animations. Instead, you can just do all of that directly in the engine, which makes it amazing for making in-game cinematics on the go. But more importantly, not only does Unreal Engine 5 have impressive physics, with their dedication to the new Chaos Physics system, but they also managed to make it all server-based, which makes it perfect for multiplayer games. This has especially seen some improvements in Unreal 5.4, where they introduced a new system for character movement and a system they call Mover 2.0, which heavily improves and simplifies multiplayer physics-based movement. So whatever a physics object is doing on one screen, it is also doing for everyone else. Now, if you look at all of the things we just mentioned, it is likely that Riot is now working on one of two things. Either the MMO dream is still alive, and Riot is working on a Destiny-styled MMO in the Valorant universe. This is all based on the job applications, which we have talked about in the last video on this topic. And here it would be suggested with Unreal Engine 5's new features for open world generation, as well as the easier building of larger areas. Or it is possible that Valorant is getting some kind of a story mode. This could be single player or co-op, both getting significant support in Unreal Engine 5, but knowing Riot, there has to be some kind of multiplayer involved. And that could be because of all of those awesome features Unreal Engine 5 has with the animations and sequencing, meaning that they would be able to give Valorant really good in-game cinematics. And remember, the game genre technically doesn't have to stay as an FPS. They could go wild and give us something like an XCOM strategy game. But the audience is already around FPS, so I guess they will stay there. The thing is, Unreal would be able to support all of this. But for now, my bets are on some kind of a story mode. Similar to what Fortnite is doing with their events, except here it would all be part of one canonical Valorant universe-based storyline. And that is pretty much all the news we got. The MMO dream might still be alive. It turns out all of those rumors we dove into previously actually meant something, and Riot is working on something more for Valorant in the background. Although it is funny that they confirmed this in an Unreal Engine conference and not in like Riot's anniversary or something. But what do I know? I still haven't announced anything. Once again, many thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video.